Is Ole Miss about to break out some fresh new uniforms? We will talk about that on this extra edition of the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to this extra edition of the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, at the Stephen Willis down below. And thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. So do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell for notifications for videos when they go up, which is quite frequently, and upvote the video itself if you don't mind. This should be a lot of fun. We're going to have fun doing this, and we just want to make this fun for you. Before we get started, I want to tell you about the National Transportation or the National Highway and Transportation Safety Administration or something like that, the NHTSA. They just want to let you know, are you one of those people that thinks it's okay to drive stoned? What's worse? What's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit. No big deal, right? Wrong. The truth is your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel, because if you feel different and you drive different, drive high and get a DUI. Seriously. Call an Uber, folks. All right. Thank you very much for making the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including iTunes and Spotify. Please leave a 5-star review and say whatever you want to say. Just make sure it's a 5-star review. That would help others in the future that are trying to find this podcast. Anything. It's like search Ole Miss. This one will come up. And you may not like it. It might not be your cup of tea. Lord knows it's not designed to be. But somebody else might like it, and you might take that away from them if you give it a 1-star review. So give it a 5-star review. Just whatever. Anyway, Ole Miss announced, well, Ole Miss didn't announce. Ole Miss uniforms announced. I will say this. Ole Miss Unis on Twitter announced this is a potential uniform for the game against Troy. And I tell you, it looks really good. This is some top shelf work by the Ole Miss Uniform Archives, and you need to give them a follow on Twitter if you want to follow anybody, because they do really, really great work. And this is what the uniform looks like right there. This is kind of top shelf stuff. If you think about it, it's the same uniform that they wore in the Sugar Bowl, except instead of powder blue, it's navy blue. Now, I do have one criticism about this uniform, and I think they have a chance to make it work potentially, but we'll get to that in just a second. I really like the pants. I love how clean the legs look and all the white going up, and then the navy blue, the really dark navy in the uniform, and then the helmets. The helmets are just fantastic. I've always been a fan of white helmets, and I'm honestly glad that Ole Miss is going down this road as well. Now, if you want to look at it, this is my one criticism of the uniform, and that is the red being that close to the blue on the Ole Miss. I think the Ole Miss needed to breathe somehow, maybe put with a white, little thin white stripe in between that and the red so it doesn't just blend together. But that's my only complaint. I think I would do something similar to the center stripe, but it looks really good. It looks better. The helmet does as the powder blue version. But I can see why they are doing this. It should be really quite good to see. Now, I'm personally a huge fan of these uniforms and think that most everybody is going to be huge fans of these uniforms, save for maybe, some people that are very tradition oriented that just wants to see Ole Miss in the gray pants and the red or blue jerseys and the navy lids. They've grown accustomed to that. That is what they associate Ole Miss as. This is an example of the traditional look. And I understand that. I get that. But understand that, please, that Ole Miss created the uniform game. When everybody else was wearing a colored uniform and a white uniform, Ole Miss was having variations. Not many. It was the early 80s. It was the 70s. But having a white jersey with red numbers like below and are white and blue, and then red and blue, for like 4 home strips that Ole Miss could legitimately break out for every game. In some games, they broke them out in the first half and then came out in something different in the second half. So Ole Miss kind of invented this thing. Oregon perfected it. Oregon made it in vogue. I'm not trying to claim that. But embrace what you are. We have the best colors in the country. It is hard to go wrong with red and blue. If you know how to do it, especially with white and gray and the powder, all of these, it basically creates 2 separate color wheels and allows you to do whatever you want to do. And it has the tradition of being rooted in something in your history. It's not made up colors. It's not Mississippi State wearing gray. It's not Mississippi State wearing black. And this is nothing against Mississippi State. If you don't have that color in your color scheme, I have a problem with you wearing it. Oregon with their hot pink uniforms. Those bother me. But if you can find a way to expand out on traditional looks of yours. Now, Ole Miss with the navy blue helmet and all that classic look, yeah, that's fine. And Ole Miss with the powder blue helmets with the numbers on the side and the red jersey, yeah, that's fine. You can do that. But there's also a room for this white strip. The white navy white, the white red white, the white powder white, the white white white. We're going to see these white helmets probably 6 times this year. You're going to see the powders probably 4. The navies are going to come out 1 or 2. Just go ahead and get your mind right for this, because that's absolutely going to happen. But understand that if we don't have the flexibility to play with what is the best color palette in all of college football, we're selling ourselves short, especially in recruiting, when we can't necessarily match up in the NIL or these other things. We can't quite get there. This provides a little bit of an equalizer. No kid is going to pick a college based off a uniform. That's not what I'm saying. But if that uniform is good, they might be able to overlook something else a little bit. So we have the best colors in college football. Embrace them. But seriously, let's get one more look at this uniform. This is glorious. This is a really good-looking strip. If Ole Miss is wearing this on Saturday, it will be something to see. We'll have our uniform reveal show. Not really a reveal show, but we'll talk about the uniforms after Ole Miss football reveals it Friday night. And if it's this one, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I like the helmets, like the jerseys, like the pants, really like everything. There are going to be some people that want a stripe on the pants. I am not really one of those. I like how simple this looks. And I think the stripe would complicate it somehow. So that's just my thoughts on that. But anyway, that is the potential uniform for this weekend. We'll see if Ole Miss Uniform Archives off of Twitter at Ole Miss Unis on Twitter gets it correct. We'll see exactly what happens, but it's a nice looking strip. Anyway, we will catch you tomorrow with the start of game week in Troy Prep, and Josh Boutwell is going to be on there. Week 1 lines, the whole 9 yards. We're going to get those to you. But until then, take care.